everyone, it's Shell from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is for the hashtag Team Tiny August 2022 hop, and we're going to be making this Slimline poinsettia card. I'm going to start out with a couple of products from Honeybee Stamps. This is the Mistletoe Slimline die with the Mistletoe Berries stencil. We're going to be using some Recollections embossing powder and the Pretty Poinsettias stamp set. We're going to be using the big poinsettia. I actually am going to change that green color cardstock. I ran it through my Cuttlebug and it didn't cut out really well. So we're actually going to be using this shiny green paper instead. And I'm just running that light kaolin powder over top of the entire thing because we are going to do some embossing. I was trying to figure out how to do this because I wanted the mistletoe to be green, but then the berries to be red. And I thought if I just did it on some green cardstock with some either red markers or red ink, it might not come out too well. So I decided to do some heat embossing. I'm taking that little square cube that I got from, this is from Hero Arts, and just applying the ink through the stencil onto the berries. Now, because these pieces are loose, they've kind of moved around a little bit so the berries don't line up exactly perfect. I had to keep moving the stencil a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. Now I'm pouring on some red glitter embossing powder from Recollections, and I will shake off the excess, put it back into the bottle, and then we are going to heat set it. So this does have some little bit of gold glitter in it, and it turns really, really dark. I don't know if you can see it here, but in person you can really tell when they are heat embossed because they turn really, really dark red from that bright red that it was. So I'm going to put this aside because the embossing powder takes a couple of minutes to cool down, and we are going to get started on the next part of the card. Oh, I want to take one of the stamps from that Pretty Poinsettia stamp set, and we're going to heat emboss it onto some Canson XL watercolor cardstock that I had that was a scrap. We're using a lot of scraps in this video, that both green pieces, the one that I initially cut out and the shiny one, those were both scraps, as well as this scrap of Canson XL watercolor cardstock or paper, whatever you want to call it. I'm running that same light kaolin clay over top of the watercolor cardstock or watercolor paper so that all of the static and stuff gets off of the paper, because we are going to be heat embossing with black, and that can be super tricky. If you don't want to do that, you can heat emboss it with a black pigment ink, and then so basically you would stamp it in black pigment ink and then heat emboss it with some clear embossing powder, and it gives you the same kind of effect, that shiny black. You'll notice here that not all of the areas got the embossing powder sticking to it because I may have missed it. It's really hard to see when you're using the embossing ink if you got all the areas, and I definitely didn't, and this is the first time I've used the stamp. If it's a little bit more seasoned, where you've stamped it a couple of times, it'll be a little bit easier the ink will go on a little bit smoother and you probably will have better results. But since this is the first time I was using it, I will show you guys how I fixed it. So I did the same thing. I heat up my heat gun for a couple seconds, brought it to the paper, heated up the entire image, and then put it to the side for a couple minutes to let it cool down. And then I took a black pen. This is a Micron, I believe it's a 0.05 black marker or pen, and I just went over the pieces of the images that were missing. You're never going to be able to even tell that that's what I did. So we're going to be watercoloring with Distress ink. And I chose Distress ink over Distress oxide because I didn't want it to have that chalky feel to it. So we're going to be using squeezed lemonade and mustard seed to do the berries in the middle. And it's a very, very simple technique. I'm going in first with the squeezed lemonade, which is the lighter color, and then dabbing on a couple dots with that mustard seed. And then we're going to be using Abandoned Coral, Candied Apple, and I can't remember what the other color of red is. I believe I show it to you guys. I will bring in Aged Mahogany, which... So I just noticed that people were calling it a red. I actually had it in with like the browns. I felt like it was more like a brownish color, but a lot of people were calling it a red. So I actually will use that in this coloring. So while I'm watercoloring and I'm really not doing anything special, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about Team Tiny. If you are new to the Team Tiny Hops, welcome. If you have been with us in the past, welcome back. We are a collection of small channels. We have less than 1,000 subscribers, and we come together once a month with a theme to do a hop for all of you guys. There are a couple prizes this month, nothing that's on all the channels. There's a couple channels that are offering a prize, so make sure you check out everybody in the hop. To check out all of the videos that are in the hop, you're going to want to click on the hashtag in the title of this video. It's hashtag Team Tiny August 2022 hop, and it'll bring up everybody who is participating in the hop's videos. There are a couple of prizes along the way on some individual channels, so make sure you check those out and follow the requirements for that. A little bit more about Team Tiny. Once you hit 1,000 subscribers, you do graduate from the group. So we have had a couple graduates in the past couple months and looking forward to having some more, just because that means that the channels are growing and hopefully the hops are helping out with new viewers and subscribers. So it's a lot of fun to watch everybody's videos each month, and we've tried hard to come up with different themes that we haven't really seen done in some hops. So we think we have some good things coming up in the next couple of months. So hopefully you guys will join us each month to see the techniques and watch everybody's projects. I know that I always love watching and seeing all the creativity from the theme that we're given. So can't wait to see what other size cards people have made for this hop. So back to the card, I am just going over and watercoloring like I would if I was Copic coloring. I put the lightest color down first, and then I pooled the medium color, and then the darkest. I will add that aged mahogany in a little bit. And once I was done with this, I really wasn't happy with it. Actually, I think now that I'm looking at it on the camera, I think it looks really good, but for some reason, I didn't think there was enough depth and dimension to it, so I am going to be adding something a little bit later on, but I just can't leave well enough alone, I think. I just have a hard time with that. So now I'm going in with that aged mahogany and putting in shadows where the poinsettia leaves overlap each other. So that aged mahogany, like I said, is new to me for reds. I had it over in the browns. So this is, it's kind of funny that, I don't remember where I saw it. Somebody was talking about, the colors in Distress Inks and Distress Oxides and what each color family, like the colors in the color families. And I had a couple of them that I thought were off. I think like Victorian Velvet, I think they said was... like I had it in pinks, and I think somebody was saying it was like a purple. I don't know. So maybe I'm a little bit colorblind. I don't know. But, like I had the aged mahogany in a different section, but it does do a really good job of making that deep, dark red when you go ahead and watercolor. So I'm just going to keep going over it until I think that I like it. And then I am going to fussy cut it out with scissors. And I am not great at fussy cutting. I probably could have put this through my Brother Scan and Cut it out, but I didn't have time to wait for it to dry. So here's where I go back in and I think, okay, there's not enough depth and dimension, so I'm going to go in with some Copic markers, and I'm just kind of adding in some of the darker shades more towards the middle of the flower, because as the petals go out they would be lighter and the center is a little bit darker. So I'm going in and adding, I think this is R89, and then I think I go back in with an R59 to add a little bit more shading around there. Oh, again, I just wasn't really thrilled with it, and I think that if I had to go back and do it again, I probably wouldn't put the Copic markers in there. It does give it a little bit of a different look. And then even after the Copic markers were done, I was not happy with it. Like I said, I can't leave well enough alone. And for some reason, I just was like, I'm not loving this. I don't know what it was. So I will go back and add something in another step even in a minute. But again, this is not anything that you have to do, but you can go in and add colored pencils. That was actually what I was going to go and do at first, was colored pencils, but I was super lazy and my colored pencils were underneath some other things and I really didn't feel like moving things, so I just used Copics. So out of pure and utter laziness. So again, going back and forth with the Copic markers, and now I'm taking a white gel pen and we're going to go around some of the leaves and put in some white highlights. No real rhyme or reason to this. I just kind of added some dash lines around some of the petals where I thought that maybe some of the light would go in. I'm not great with shadow and light and things like that. I know when things overlap, there should be a shadow underneath of it, but that's pretty much it. Really showing my years of being in talented art with the shadow and light, but I always had problems with that. Now I am putting the poinsettia on top to try to figure out what I wanted to do. I was trying to figure out what color card base I wanted, and I cut down a piece of cardstock to 7 by 8.5 and then scored on the 7-inch side at 3.5. So this is a 3.5 by 8.5 inch slimline card, and I'm using my Honeybee Be Creative Precision glue to just go over all of the back of it, and then I'm going to glue it down to this black card base, and then we are going to stamp the inside. I picked a sentiment from the Pretty Poinsettia stamp set that you can see on the side. Oh, and then Lucy, of course, had to jump up on my desk, so I did have to stop filming because she was just in the way. So actually, this is the part that I went back and added. This is a Spectrum Noir, I think it's a sparkle pen, and it has red ink with glitter inside of it, and for some reason it was just pooling up, so I'm using a paintbrush to go back and add a little bit of sparkle and shine to the leaves. It makes the color a little bit darker, so I was really trying to concentrate it towards the bottom of the leaf and anywhere where it overlapped, and then just pulling out that color a little bit so it got more of the glitter than the red. Again, I was not really happy with the way that it looked, and then I added the glitter and I thought, okay, maybe this will help. I think that if I had to do this over again, I would not do any of those extra steps. I would have left it just the watercolored. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. When was the point that I should have stopped coloring the poinsettia? At what point did you like it? Do you like it now that it's fully finished, or will be fully finished, or did you like it better in the beginning or the middle? I'd love to hear your comments of, how you think the poinsettia looked best. So I'm going to just keep going back on that. Normally I would have gone in just with the Spectrum Noir pen, but it was leaking all over the place and I didn't want it to pool all over the image and ruin it, especially after I did all of those steps for it. So I'm going to let that dry for a minute, and then I'm going to put some of that foam tape on the back of it because I wanted to pop it up off of the front of the card. Once it's on the front of the card, I am going to take the Lawn Fawn, and I think this is a sparkle pen. I think this is what you call it. And I'm going to go over top of the berries and just add a little bit of sparkle and shine to the front because you can never have enough glitter. I did stamp a sentiment on the inside, but I'm not going to show you guys that. I stamped it crooked. I do have to go back and correct it, but I just wanted to get the card done because I was running late on this project. So that's the card. Thank you guys so much for joining us for the hop. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll see you again real soon for another video. Bye!